I relatively did the haircuts for about 2 before. Okay, so the first point we're going to work with Oscar is to section the top away from the back and the sides. We will take a classic horseshoe section, and to do so we need to find his crown, which is easy by combing the hair back over the crown, push it forward, and where the hair grows in a different direction and swirls around is his crown. We will then take a section from that crown around to his recession point in the front. Clip those away. When I comb the hair, to make life easy, I comb the hair beyond the hairline. So when I put my comb in, it's very easy to take the section all the way to the front. The hair's all traveling in the same direction. Makes my life very easy. So the reason we put the horseshoe in is the hair above the horseshoe is growing forward, below the horseshoe is growing down. The same at the sides from the recession points. The hair above your recession tends to grow more forward. The hair below the recession will actually grow down. So we'd actually split that at that point. We are going to be using the chisel. I'm going to take a vertical section right from that crown right through to the nape. And I'm picking up the entire section. It's really important that you spread the hair out evenly. So I'm using the fine teeth at the time being, always combing from the roots, fingers behind, and following it out to the ends. Super important to maintain a tidy flow with your haircut so you know exactly where you're going. I can see at the moment that there's a lot of bulk sitting above his occipital bone. We're going to use the chisel on a 45-degree angle. And work my way right down to maintain that length. So the chisel will give me a nice, not super wispy, a nice choppy, chunky sort of texture. Then I will work my section pattern towards Oscar's left ear, picking up, fanning that hair out beautifully. I can see that guideline. Very strong 45-degree angle with the chisel as I'm coming through, sitting on that hairline. And you can see what texture I get here on the hair that's leaving is a mirrored image on the hair that's left. So it's a nice choppy texture. It's not soft or wispy like my razor. So what we're doing is we're actually taking the bulk away. We're using a uniform layered technique, but because I'm using the chisel, I'm going to get a beautiful texture in Oscar's hair. Then we're going to take that guideline and then we're going to move around to his left ear. really important to ensure that when you comb, constantly picking the hair up at the root, fingers in behind, and it just fans that hair out beautifully, which makes that guideline really obvious. So we continue that right around to his ear. You can see I'm getting this beautiful choppy texture on the hair. So whatever I see in my fingers is what's going to be married perfectly or mirrored on his hair. So we just continue this right around to his front hairline. Really important to stay tidy. You won't lose yourself in the haircut. Just a quick cross check to make sure I'm still following his head shape around. So it's quite clear, you can see as I'm pulling this section out, that we are creating a similar length from top to bottom, which will ensure that Oscar's hair will collapse and will maintain that length, but we're going to reduce that bulkiness. So we continue that section pattern, vertical sections, picking up some of the hair we cut, some we haven't cut. We're going to travel over the ear, and we are effectively debulking Oscar's hair. And you can see when I come to the base of this that I'm still maintaining all the length that Oscar came in with, but just reducing that width on the haircut. So a uniform layer will reduce bulk completely. Now, obviously coming over the ear, my hairline jumps up. If I maintain exactly the same section pattern, the same angle, you will find that this front will naturally become shorter, which is what I want. So I don't want so much length over his ear. I want enough to still tuck in behind, but not so long that it's the same length exactly as the back. And then we go through and cross-check to make sure that we are roughly similar lengths all the way through. When you're working with the chisel, you are going to get discrepancies, but it's perfectly okay. You don't want perfection. We can now see that this side of Oscar's hair is becoming debulked, yet we've maintained all that length. We go to the right side, you can see how heavy all of this is. And what will happen now, this will sit nice and tight to his head. This is why we will disconnect that fringe. We still want to maintain some length in the fringe, but we don't want that length, but we want to reduce that width. We will now continue exactly the same concept to the right hand side, but our body position will change slightly. So we will continue through the right hand side. Body position has changed, lifting the hair out. But I'm now sort of coming, I can see my guideline quite clearly, but I'm coming down again, 45-degree angle. So cutting the left hand side, body positions like so. Cutting the left hand side, change body position and hand position. I like to see the guideline through the hair. Also ensures that I don't over direct towards the face and make the hair shorter. And you can see every time I take a section, it's clean from the top of that horseshoe to the nape. It's consistently being combed from the roots to the end, so I can see very clearly my guideline. 45-degree with the chisel, just chopping the hair off. Quick cross check, make sure we're not creeping shorter. So we're just replicating what we've done on the left hand side. The question I get asked consistently is it uncomfortable for the model? Because it sounds quite aggressive, but it's actually not uncomfortable. Important to always try and keep the hair damp. And the beautiful thing with Chisel is the sheer speed of working your way through the haircut. I'm getting incredible texture, reducing bulk, but I'm also working quite quickly. Right up to that front hairline. Cross-checking. A little extra length left in front of the ear. Just blending in front of the ear to behind the ear. And again, we've now debulked but maintained exterior length. So there we have, really the first stage of the haircut is really all of the exterior flat layer. Flat layer means the hair will collapse, maintain that length. We are now going to cut the top of the section, but it will be disconnected, probably connected through the back of the haircut. And as we travel from the back towards the front, I still want to maintain some length. So we will now bring this top down. It's also important to remember that Oscar does have some curl, and when curl dries, it is going to shrink. So just dampen that top again. So we can already see if that top falls over and we start to dry, we've got a very, very similar to haircut to what we started with, but we've just now taken away all the thickness. Big issue with a lot of these haircuts, if you cut too much solid form in the base, you end up with too much width. We want to maintain that length, but we want a narrow shape. It's a perfect way to leave a long undercut in the haircut. Now, combing that top, we're taking a radial section from ear to ear effectively. We're going to pull the hair out, but our technique now for cutting the hair is quite different. We're going to stab this hair off. So I'm going to work at a 45-degree angle. I can see my length on the underneath through this back. Stabbing, and again getting this beautiful chunky texture in the hair. So I'm over directing that entire section back onto the top of that last section through the back. Then we're going to continue to take radial sections towards the front. Taking it to what now effectively is a stationary guideline, dropping it down so I can see it, and then stabbing this hair off. But after this uneven, chunky finish, I'm not after perfection. If I wanted perfection, I would probably go to my straight blade or my texturizing scissor. So this whole side is getting over-directed back. I'm now moving away from my guideline at the side, because I want to maintain that length as that hair falls forward. So it's working around over the ear, because we're over directing backwards, it is going to start to be an undercut through the sides. We have a connection through the back, a disconnection running through the sides. We continue that radial section until we run out of hair through the back, which is pretty close to now. And then it's really deciding how long do I want this to be. And I can see there's a big chunk of length sitting in the middle. I'd like to remove that and work close to that length in the fringe that we're sitting at. That's the beauty of working with the chisel. It's a sculptural performance. You are deciding what do I want to take away, and I don't have to work tightly with guidelines that are really rigid. So I'm still leaving this as an undercut. keeping the stationary guideline. And I love the fact that I can be imperfect. As we've discussed before, my early career was always perfection. That it's assumed philosophy, and every section was perfect. And this is imperfect, and I love it. I love working with both philosophies. And there we have the D bolt butt length, top left hand side. We'll transition onto the right hand side now and do exactly the same. Deciding on the length I want to create. At the moment it's sitting longer through the centre and then going shorter to the fringe. Lifting and deciding where you feel you want to take that length. That's the beauty of Chisel, as I said before. I'm not really connecting it to the underneath guideline, it's overhanging. Just follow that through until effectively we run out of hair. So if I lift this top section up, you should end up with a V, which we do. Then it's up to me whether I think I want to take more bulk away. Looking at it, I'm quite happy. I think we'll take a little bit of that fringe section away so it sits more on his cheekbone. Coming down onto that fringe, just taking off that overhang. Let's check the other side. So it's quite clear now that we've got a lot less bump happening. You can clearly see different lengths, so there is an overhang, but that overhang will sit nice and flush and flat. We maintain length, but we are going to sit on his cheekbone. So now we will endeavour to dry him off. just to recap what I was doing when I was blow drying, I was wrapping Oscar's hair around his head. I was using his head like a great big roller, forwards and then backwards. He has an uneven amount of curl. He's got more curl at the front and down through the back. So if I stretch the hair back and forth, there's no need to use a brush. Pulling the fringe across to the left and then across to the right, the same thing will happen. We'll just start to smooth out that fringe. And as a recap, we've obviously used their chisel to give us a bit of a scrappy texture in the hair. We've taken out that horseshoe section to start. We've taken a vertical section down the back. We've then pulled that directly out, cutting effectively a flat layer, which is going to make that whole rock collapse. So the length up through the top and through the nape are very much similar. And when it falls down, it's going to sit nice and tight against his head. We followed that around through the sides to get the same effect. We wanted to maintain that length down below the ear, but we wanted to create a flatness through the sides, so we've done the same thing through that. This top overhand, we still want to maintain length in that fringe, so you can wear it multiple different ways. You can actually wear it the other way if you like. But the whole thing's going to collapse. It's going to sit still full. He still has long hair. It's one of my favourite looks on young guys these days instead of the fades. It's nice to see men wear their hair a bit longer again. What do you reckon, Oscar?